And welcome, everybody, to our weekly chat. We're so very happy to have you. We are live in our theater here in Hendersonville, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, where we do the Huckabee Show every week. Pam Case, senior producer for the show, joins me. We take your questions, and I do my best to either answer them or avoid them completely, but make you think I'm answering. Actually, this is kind of fun because it's a little more intimate setting. It's not on television. It's only online. Streaming. Therefore, I can be a little more blunt than maybe television standards would allow me to be. We would love for you to send us your questions to the chat. Better yet, send us a super chat. That means it just gets pushed all the way up to the top. Now, there are going to be moderators watching the chat, making sure that we're trying to get as many in as possible. And we would always urge you, subscribe to the channel, because that means we'll let you know when we're going to do this and when our videos come forward. Also, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. And hey, this would be a great time to share with your friends and tell them, hey, we're doing a live chat. Better join us. And if they're at work, I'm sure their boss will more than gladly let them take off from work and spend the next few minutes with us, because it is going to be fun. We're going to get right to it. I mean, we've got so much going on this week, it's hard to get to it. But I want to begin with really an exchange between Peter Doocy of Fox News and Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary. I've known Peter since he was a teenager. His father, Steve Doocy, of course, the morning host on Fox and Friends, great family, the whole family, great people. Peter's become a rock star as a reporter. He's not a smart aleck and he's not a showboat, but he asks tough questions, and it's really interesting. You can tell that his questions are not part of the narrative that the Biden administration wants to be able to present. This is an exchange between Peter Doocy and Jen Psaki that I want you to see. We'll have a comment on it right after.
You say no Americans are stranded. This is someone in Kabul who says, I am stranded. So is there a better word for somebody who can't leave the house to get to the airport because Jake Sullivan says ISIS is outside the airport?
I would welcome you providing their phone number, and we will reach out to them today. And I can assure you of that.
Well, first of all, a little context. You may remember the day before, Jen Psaki took umbrage because Peter Doocy asked how many Americans are stranded. And she said, nobody is stranded. Everybody that wants to leave can, which I thought was the nuttiest thing I've ever heard. It's like saying to somebody sitting in the exit row of an airplane, now, are you able and willing to open the exit door? Folks, when the airplane crashes and it's on fire, you're willing to get out of the plane. Nobody says, I'm sorry, I'd like to finish this magazine article. Or, gee, I have half a pretzel to finish before I can get out. To say that people just want to hang around in Afghanistan is nuts. But she took great offense that he used the word stranded. So when it turned out that there are thousands of Americans, and what other word could we use? And that's what he pointed to her. What would you like to call these people who want to get out, but they can't get to the airport? Her answer is very revealing. She says, give me their names and numbers. We'll call them. Well, now we know if we give the names and numbers, they turn it over to the Taliban, because Joe Biden admitted as much, that they had a list and they gave it to the Taliban, because there's nobody more trustworthy with the names, addresses, phone numbers of an American or an Afghani trying to get to the airport than to hand it to the Taliban, who likely will beat them up or kill them. It is just beyond comprehension that anybody thought that that was a good idea, that we could trust the Taliban. Pam, I know we got a lot of questions coming in.
Well, I want to say hello to Mr. Sneed. I believe his name was Bruce Sneed, super chatter from Georgia. No comment, but just a hello. Okay.
Hello.
So, yeah, hello.
Thank you.
This comes from Kim Lamberts from Morgan, Vermont. Dear Governor Huckabee, I'm wondering if you know any group who is actively trying to rescue Afghan women and children and Christian families being hunted down by the Taliban. I have a real burden from the Lord to help them. I'm looking for an organization who can get in there and mount a rescue. Is Samaritan's Purse going in, or is it too dangerous? I want to support special ops, anyone who knows how to rescue, as I see that our military has their hands tied. Thank you. A sister in Christ, Kim Lamberts.
Well, Kim, there is actually a very massive effort going on the part of former military, because as you know, the active military are not being given the orders that they can go in and extricate these Americans or the Afghani partners. But a lot of the people who have served in Afghanistan and whose lives were saved by these partners, they want to get both the Americans and those translators and the others who helped us, who saved American lives, get them out of there, because they know that if they don't, they're going to get slaughtered. They're going to get slaughtered. And there's a group of former military operatives, and there was a very good story on, of all places, ABC News yesterday. And it kind of tells about this group. What I can't tell you, but you might be able to go to the web and look it up and do a search on it. If there's a way to get in touch with the organizing group. But there are hundreds of our military people, former military, that are risking their lives to go in and get Americans out because they feel like they just cannot wait for Joe Biden to realize that Americans are being stranded. Sorry, Jen Psaki, but they are being stranded. One of the reasons all of this is happening so quickly is because Joe Biden is married to this deadline of August the 31st, which makes no sense, especially because why do we care what the Taliban thinks? But obviously we do. Here is an interview that Sky News had with the head of the Taliban talking about this date and could it be flexible to give us more time to get our people out. Watch.
If the US or the UK wanted to extend the 31st of August deadline in order to continue evacuations out of the country, would you agree to that?
No, it's a red line. President Biden announced this agreement that until 31st of August, they would withdraw all their military forces. So if they extend it, that means they are extending occupation. If they are intent on continuing the occupation, so it will provoke a reaction.
Well, let me tell you what ought to provoke a reaction. One hair on the head of an American getting injured, that ought to create a reaction from our government and from Joe Biden. And I couldn't believe this guy says, Joe Biden set that deadline and, he's got to keep it. Well, the Taliban also said they would make sure that all the people who wanted to get out could get out and they wouldn't be hindered. And all the Afghans who wanted to get out could get out and they wouldn't be hindered. That was a lie. So we are not bound to a date certain if the Taliban don't keep their end of the deal. And why we would ever trust them, it absolutely boggles the mind. And all I can do is say, folks, it's time to pray. Pray for those people who are in the midst of harm's way. And there are a lot of our fellow Americans who are there and a lot of good and decent people. And I fear especially for women and little girls in Afghanistan who will go from being well-educated entrepreneurs and leaders and educators into basically hunted prey the moment the last American leaves that country. That's going to be a horrible tragedy. Got some more
Governor,
questions?
there's so many that are with us today. And so if you have an opportunity, make sure we've got plenty of time for you still to share. And certainly there's somebody that that would love to be part of the conversation one-on-one with the governor today. And Gov, I think you could probably simply respond to this comment. Betty Wilkinson from Florida says Trump wouldn't let this happen.
I truly believe he would not. One of the reasons we haven't had a single death in the military in 18 months in Afghanistan, not one, was because the terrorists knew that the same president, Donald Trump, that took out al-Baghdadi and Soleimani and that sent serious damage to Syria and busted up their airfields, that he didn't do well with this. Did he want to get out of Afghanistan? Yes, he did. But he was in no way planning to turn it over to the Taliban and let them dictate the terms. And in fact, if you've heard Mike Pompeo, and I had a chat with him on my podcast last week, it was very adamant that if we left and the Taliban did one thing to hurt those women and did not let our people out, that they were going to pay dearly for it. And I fully believe they would. So the answer is no, it wouldn't have come out this way. For one thing, the military would have been the last ones out, not the first ones. We would have gotten all the Americans, all the State Department personnel. We would have scuttled whatever military hardware we couldn't get out of the country. We wouldn't have left it there gift wrapped with a bow on it for the Taliban, for heaven's sakes. And it would have been very different. It's just the nature of the beast. And it's one of the things that I cannot fully understand. Before we go to the next question, I want to just get to this. This is where, again, it's an exchange between Peter Doocy and Jen Psaki. And I know it sounds like I'm doing all the ones with Peter Doocy, but he's the one asking the toughest questions in the room. He raises concerns about the evacuees with terrorist ties. Jen Psaki brags about what a great operation they have going. Watch.
I would say that this is now on track, Peter, to be the largest airlift in U.S. history. And that is bringing American citizens out. It is bringing our Afghan partners out. It is bringing allies out. So no, I would not say that is anything but a success.
Yeah, it's just a booming success. Everybody sees it, except they're laughing at us, although nobody's really laughing. But they're scorning us in every capital of the world. My gosh, for the first time in history. Now think about this. We have a long history with the UK, Great Britain, right? I mean, we sort of broke off from them, that we're our mother country. In the 250 years that this nation's been here, the British Parliament has never, ever voted to formally censure a US president until this week, when they formally voted to censure Joe Biden for what they thought was an absolute collapsed, miserable failure of leadership. When Jen Psaki made this comment, and she says the largest airlift in history, I thought, yeah, why? Why do we have to airlift this many people out? It's like saying we've mopped more water than anybody has ever mopped before. The question is, who spilled the water that had to be mopped? It might not be something you want to brag about. The fact that you've got that many people who are, here we go with that word again, stranded, is an indictment upon the way you got out of there. It is not a compliment of what a great job that you're doing.
I want to make sure that Karen Super Chat, thank you so much, Karen, for lifting your comment to the top by sharing a few dollars. Why can't our military go in, Gov, and take out our people and military equipment as well with the force of our military?
Well, the answer is we can, but you have to have a commander-in-chief who gives that order. And ours has decided that we're not going to send more out. We are right now pulling the people out that are there. We don't have enough people to adequately do the job of processing those folks if they can get to the airport. Could we and should we? Yes. And by the way, I've talked to military people. They're chomping at the bit. I mean, they live their lives trained to do something that would save an American life. And many of them are so frustrated, so discouraged. And if you get a chance, and I hope you will make a chance to watch the Huckabee Show this weekend on TBN, our guest is Congressman Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. He was a 38-year military veteran, retired as a brigadier general. He has some great insights. And I say that because we've already taped the conversation with him. Wait until you hear what he has to say about that very issue. It's a little teaser for the show, but don't miss it.
It's going to be a good one. A reminder to everyone, especially if you haven't done this before, make sure you subscribe right here on the page and click on the bell. And that way, next time you'll be notified to join us the very next time we get together. And we've got plenty of time today for you to be part of the conversation. D. Ever says, ask this question, Gov, why do they all laugh and smile about those horrible things that people are facing due to their administration? It's sickening.
Yeah, it's almost like they don't fully take this as seriously as I think the rest of us do. We have a clip, it's clip 6 in our list, and I want you to see this, again, exchange with Jen Psaki, who is called out for what the president had done in trying to make a little joke in the midst of this whole crisis. Let's watch.
At the tail end of the president's remarks today about cybersecurity, he was asked about Afghanistan, and he made a
I think
joke.
Peter asked him that question.
The other Peter did, and he made a joke. So what's so funny?
Well, I think the question he was asked, if I remember correctly, was about when he will provide information about a decision on August 31st. I don't want to paraphrase the question if that was an inaccurate description of the question.
To a lot of people watching.
Of course, it's a very important question. And I think what he conveyed, he has not, well, what I can convey from here, I should say, is that as he stated yesterday, and as the Secretary of State just stated, we're on track to complete our mission by August 31st.
Did you kind of get the impression that Jen Psaki wanted to dive under that podium right then rather than try to answer it, which she artfully dodged. Pretty revealing, I think, in the manner in which it was done.
And yet another super chat, Gov. Navy vet writes us. I think I remember him from last week. Maybe if this administration wasn't so worried about allowing people across the southern border and worry about Americans and our allies, we might be better off. Instead, he blames failure on everyone else.
I have been very disappointed. On one hand, Joe Biden says, the buck stops here, but only after he's blamed everyone in sight, including, of course, the former president. But he blamed the Afghan military. He blamed the Afghan people. I had a chance to visit for about half an hour earlier today with a person born and raised in Afghanistan, went back there as a translator in the early days of 2010 and 2011, served with our military. And one of the things that he said was that the Afghan people, they were more than willing to fight, and they fought. They fought hard. They lost 90,000 of their fellow citizens in this battle over the last 20 years. So they paid a price. But when President Biden said, we're pulling out, we're leaving, and the Taliban can be in charge, they quit. We quit as a country, quit supplying assistance to them. Their army hadn't been paid in a long time. How demoralizing is it when you're suited up for war and you're handed a weapon and said, defend the country? Oh, we're not going to pay you. And their families have to eat too. I mean, it's just been an unmitigated disaster. It's been tragic. So understand that is a lot of the frustration that many people, including world leaders, have, is that there's not been a sense of, gee, we really botched this, didn't we? Let's fix it. Can I tell you, I think the American people can handle it when a leader makes a mistake. No such thing as a perfect leader. We couldn't afford to pay one, and we never could afford to find one or elect one. But the one thing we want out of one is that if he makes a major tactical error like this has been, look at that camera, and rather than say, it's my former president that did it, it's the Afghan people, just look at the camera and say, we made some really bad decisions here, but here's what we're going to do to fix it. I think the American people as a whole would be willing to say, okay, we're with you.
Josh is a super chatter. No comment, just kind of chimed in a little bit through the dollar. Beverly Lynn is asking, Governor, why is it that the southern border is open to cross into the United States, but the northern border from Canada is not?
It's a great question. I mean, let's be realistic here. The southern border is all about importing what the Democrats think will be future voters for them. I think, first of all, they're quite wrong about assuming that everybody who crosses that border is going to vote Democrat. So many of the people, now I'm not talking about the ones who come to do drugs and the ones who come to traffic women and little girls. Those we don't want. That's why we ought to have a border, is to keep that element out. But folks, there are a lot of people who come to America, whether it's the southern border or wherever, they come here because they want a better life, and they're willing to work their backsides off to have it. And some of the most industrious, hardworking, honorable people I've ever dealt with in my life are people who immigrated to America, maybe from Mexico or Guatemala, may have been from Romania, may have been from Croatia, could have been from Serbia, anywhere in the world. They didn't come here looking for us to do something for them. They came here saying, I'm willing to dig a ditch, I'll drive a taxi, I will do whatever it takes. And I'll tell you what, people who come with that attitude in a few years, they own their own businesses and their kids have gone to college and are doctors. That to me is the greatest affirmation of what our country is all about. So I don't begrudge people coming. And I tell you, when people come like that, most of them, they don't want to vote for a party that believes in handouts for people that don't work, because they had to work real hard to get where they are.
Thank you, Governor. If you like what you're hearing today, make sure you subscribe right now. Easy to do. Ring the bell for notifications. And of course, if you really like it, share it with your friends, because still plenty of time to be involved in our conversation today. You're one-on-one with Governor Mike Huckabee. We've got a super chat, got another one. David White, Joe blames Trump if this happened in May, but he waited to do things his way, the way he does most things, not the right way. 50 years of disgrace.
Of the people who are in Washington, Joe's been there about as long as anybody. if not longer than most everybody. And you would think that all that experience would be worth something. We're seeing this week that the longer people stay in Washington, it's not that the better they get. Forgive me for saying it. I think it's the worse they get. Why do I support term limits for every single elected official? And by the way, I believed in those for myself when I was governor. I believe in nobody ought to go to work in the government and it become their only career. People ought to learn how to work and sign the front of a paycheck, not just the back of one. And I've always wondered, how do people become multimillionaires on a paycheck that is a fraction of that working in politics? I don't get that. I can see getting out of politics, finding ways to maybe earn good money. Good. But while you're there, I don't know how you do it. I really don't. So, David, I want to say thanks for your comment. I agree wholeheartedly, and I wish that we had a limit on how long people could stay in a public office, because I think it's just like a diaper that doesn't get changed. It doesn't get better with time.
There's no limit, though, to the great questions today. Will Biden be impeached? That comes from Carla Head.
Carla, it will not happen, not at least right now, because the Democrats are in total control of both the House and the Senate. If Donald Trump could get impeached over a phone call, which was perfectly innocent, we all got to hear the whole phone call. It's like, really? That's impeachable? That was nonsense. What we've seen this week, that might rise to the level. But the point is, it's never going to happen. Don't think for a moment there's a chance of that. If you hear Republicans saying, I'm going to file articles of impeachment, fine. That'd be like me saying, I'm going to write a strongly worded letter to tell Joe to resign. You think he's going to do that? No. So it's not going to happen. Now, if Republicans take possession of the House next year in 2022, then it could happen. And only whether there's enough senators could it actually result in a removal. And that's unlikely, but the impeachment could come. Impeachment doesn't mean removal. It just means indictment, basically. So you want to see that happen? Elect a Republican Congress next year.
Another super chat. Hello from Neutralizer 007. Maybe that's who we need. 007, go.
A double knot spy.
Marsha Anderton has written, yesterday at the press conference, Biden said he was instructed to call on NBC reporter first. Who is behind Biden instructing him what to say and what to do?
That was one of the most surreal things I've ever seen. My daughter was a press secretary, as most of you know, for Donald Trump. Nobody ever instructed Donald Trump for anything at the podium. When he walked in there, he did exactly what he wanted to do, sometimes to the great dismay of my daughter, who knew she was going to have to clean up after him. But my point is, the commander-in-chief and the leader of the free world does not take instructions from some lackey down the hall who tells him who he has to call on. And my immediate reaction is what I tweeted out yesterday. If somebody instructed him on who to call, did they also instruct the reporter as to what question would be allowed to be asked? I mean, this is just, honestly, it's crazy town stuff. When the president of the United States looked down at his notes and said, now this is who whoever they is, instructed me to call on. Mr. President, you can call on anybody you want to, and nobody's going to fire you for that.
Musical Help asks, Governor, I'll tell you why they laugh and joke about all their wrongdoing, because behind your back, they just grabbed another $5 trillion while you were looking at their last deed, Afghanistan.
Boy, that may be 100% right. This week, Nancy Pelosi calls them all into D.C. They vote this ridiculous Spendapalooza bill. It's really pretty scary, because what it does, it extends giveaway programs for another generation. The debt now is up to $29 trillion and climbing. And that may be a pretty good assessment, because they can, do you ever see the movie Wag the Dog?
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's a great movie, and if you haven't seen it, it's probably right now a good time to watch, because it's all about how a war was created to create a complete diversion because a politician was in trouble. It's got Dustin Hoffman, and I'm trying to remember, great cast in it. But immediately that came to mind when the question came up.
Wow. Carol Webb is asking, I don't know if you know about this or not, please talk about the Nazarene Fund. They are working to bring Christians out, but the State Department is blocking them. Please help.
I saw a little about that on Fox last night. I don't know a lot about it. I don't have firsthand knowledge, so I don't want to comment to a large degree. I would say if anybody's getting folks out of Afghanistan right now, God bless them and help them. I'm just not personally familiar with exactly what the logistics are of getting them out and how they're doing it. But I hope they're doing a great job, because it's apparent that our own government is doing a pathetic job of getting those folks out.
Sue Prov commented too. She said she was listening to Laura Logan on Glenn Beck, and men who did many tours of duty were literally vomiting when they realized what America was doing to fellow citizens and those who worked with them.
How sad.
Yeah.
And I think that the people that will suffer the most through this are going to be our military people, many of whom served in Afghanistan. They spilled blood there. I saw a person I have such great admiration for. You've probably seen him if you watch Fox any, Joey Jones. He was a bomb technician, lost both legs in Afghanistan. So he's got a little bit of an investment over there. And in watching him and listening to him, I have a great sense of appreciation for his perspective. And he was, talking this week how so many of the Afghanistan veterans are going to be very, very frustrated when they realize that all that they did over there was basically thrown away to the Taliban. What he said that I would echo, their service was honorable, and they gave hope and help to so many people, especially to women who had been treated as property, as mere things prior to the Americans coming in and giving them an elevation to person status. So I hope that our veterans won't feel it was all in vain. But I don't blame them for being upset with the manner in which we've left. Good time to remind everybody to subscribe to the channel. That way we can let you know when we're going to be doing this. Hit the notification bell. Leave a comment for us. Tell us what you think. If you have ideas of how we can improve these times when we get together in the Q&A session, be sure to put a like in the column there. And for heaven's sakes, even in these final few minutes, we've got a few more minutes to go and quite a few questions to get to. Share it with others and tell them to join you in watching our live stream.
Thanks, Gov. Todd Danielson is asking, what are our options for a real president before the election?
There really isn't much of an option. I mean, we have an election every 4 years. It is very hard to get rid of a president in the middle of a term, and quite frankly, it ought to be. You don't want to have a situation where every time a president does something you don't like, Congress goes in and says, okay, we're going to impeach him and get him out. It was a huge distraction to President Trump. It took so much of his time and energy, and I hated it then. And frankly, I don't want to see that happen now. I think we ought to do this by elections, but I hope that we can get a Republican Congress so they can keep some dumb things from happening. And that will be a firewall to keep it from happening, and hold on until 2024 and elect a responsible person to be president then.
All right. Thank you to Paul Corley for this question. Are we sharing information with the same Taliban who stormed our embassy and took it over 2 weeks ago, and now they're helping us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. An exchange again at the White House. Let's watch. I think it'll give us a good insight into what we can expect.
Leverage. This is our view over time. That includes economic leverage. It includes leverage that we will make clear to the Taliban as it relates to coordination, continue to get American citizens and our partners out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the basic thing she was asked was, can we trust the Taliban? I mean, at least I did hear some of the military people point blank say, no, we can't. What she was asked was the Taliban going to be a reliable partner? And she said, well, it's all we got. In other words, it's the ugliest girl at the dance, but there's nobody else on the floor that didn't already partnered up, so I guess we got to dance with her. I'm thinking, no, I'd cut in. I'd find another partner. The last people I'd ever trust would be the Taliban. And by the way, their cooperation with Al-Qaeda, with Boko Haram and the other terror groups, not encouraging. So it's a total disaster.
Okay, so we've got to go personal just for a moment. Bob Hitchcock says, Nice beard, Mr. Huckabee.
Ah.
It works good for you. So you
Ah.
kept it.
Yeah,
Right?
so far so good. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Sometimes people say, you're going to keep it? I don't know. At least I proved I can grow it. I've told people that if Joe Biden mandates masks for everybody, I'm just going to say, I've grown mine. I'm wearing it. We'll see how that works out.
Got another super chat. David Norwood has donated just a little bit. So R. Tasman 2004, Governor Mike Huckabee, my fiance and I just love you. We love watching your show and your videos. God bless you and your family in Jesus' name. Amen.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. And obviously you and your fiance have great taste in television viewing. So I appreciate that very much. I truly do. Thank you very much.
All right, so I'm going to go through here and I want to shout out to some of the folks that have just told us they were watching. We've had folks from the Netherlands watching with us today, New Mexico. We have Georgia represented. We have Germany represented. Let's see who else we've got on our list today. Canada represented. Just want to make sure that you realize that this is the opportunity from wherever you are around the world to talk to the governor one-on-one. So here we go. Saved by grace. Hi ho, off to Gitmo they go.
That could be a song. I'll tell you who could write that one would be Larry Gatlin. If anybody could put that to music, it would be Larry. I think I may suggest that to him. He'll make a hit out of that.
He could indeed. Eagle Talons writes, Governor, however, the Taliban are not on the U.S. terrorist list. And why is that?
I honestly don't know. I think they should be. They are a terrorist organization. Hamas is on that list, and Boko Haram, and obviously Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, they're all on the list. Honestly, I don't know. I cannot answer that.
We have North Central Ohio represented this afternoon, by the way. We also have Springfield, Missouri, or Missouri. If I say it the right way.
Depends on which part of the state you're in.
I guess I didn't know that.
No, it is.
Is that really the truth?
I promise you, if you're in the western part, and I wish I could remember, somebody's going to call and correct me, but it's like on the western Kansas City side, it's Missouri, and in the St. Louis side, it's Missouri. I think that's right. It may be switched the other way, but it can be called either way, and it depends on where in the state you are.
Well, I wanted to make sure I said it correctly. I needed a little schooling myself. So Stephen Tutko says, or he's asking a question, will there be hearings on this debacle, and how long do you believe that our allies will trust us when it comes to another situation where we're going to need their help? And that's a great question.
I think this is one of the real long-term effects of what's going on this week is that our allies won't trust us and our enemies won't fear us. It's the worst place we can be in. You always want your friends to be able to trust you. They have to know that if they're in trouble, we're with them, till, as we say down south, till the last dog dies. And right now, they don't believe that. They truly worry that we would up and leave them hanging. You know, we didn't tell them we were just going to up and run so abruptly. And that's one of the reasons they're so upset with us. And the other thing is you want your enemies to fear it. You want them to be absolutely scared to death of you. One of the reasons we didn't have a war during Ronald Reagan's 8 years as president, one of the few times in the last 200 years we didn't have any war start up, was because Ronald Reagan scared the daylights out of the opposition. Same thing with Donald Trump. Donald Trump did not move us into a war. He got us some out, but he didn't move us in. And part of that was people were afraid. You know, they thought Reagan was a cowboy. He'd just pull his 6-shooters and go shooting. And they thought Donald Trump would hit the red button. Truth is, he was never going to do that. But I'll tell you what he would do. He would use any and all the resources that we had in the United States of America to protect Americans and to protect our interests and to stand with our allies. And it's one of the reasons that he told the NATO members, pony up and pay for what you're getting. Because if we're going to stand with you, we don't want you to be deadbeats. They hated him for his message, but they all wrote bigger checks and saved NATO because of it. We maybe have time, for one more?
Do we indeed? Do we have another one? So let's see. We talked about the debacles. I'm looking to see if we have another one that is ready to go. I'll tell you what we do want to do, though, is talk about what we've got going on this weekend around here on this campus.
I do need to do that. By the way, be sure to leave questions in the comments section. And you can also email us a question. We love to get those. Send those to my2cents at tbn.tv. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. And by the way, be sure to watch the show tomorrow night. I want you to make sure you do that. You may say, well, what do you got on the show? Watch this and we'll show you.
This week on Huckabee, Vivek Ramaswamy blows the whistle on corporate America. Head-spinning news on In Case You Missed It.
Quite frankly, not since Joe Biden's last press conference has there been anything so dangerously unbalanced.
Magician Rick Thomas. And country music's Rory Feet performs. Watch Huckabee on Saturday at 8, 7 Central, and again on Sunday at 9, 8 Central, right here on TBN.